What is going on with y'all, man? It is Black Balloon, and I'm coming back with another video, so y'all already know what's going on. Alright, y'all. Now, today we are here to talk about the Zeus network, right? So, I already know a good bit of you. Actually, a couple of y'all requested for me to do this video some weeks back. It may have even been over a month or so ago, right? Because it was starting to go around that the Zeus network is demonic. A bunch of people on TikTok doing their little quick videos saying that the network is demonic, so on and so on, right? So the Blue Couch channel, which is Real Life Street Stars or Real Life Productions, they did a video with Aaron the Plumber, right? If y'all keep up with all of this stuff that's going on with social media, these new creators, people who just start randomly going viral for a bunch of antics. Of course, all he do is fight online. And, he's basically blowing up, somewhat getting famous from a bunch of these crazy antics, being on the show. And he did an interview on the Blue Couch. And his interview caught my attention the most because he talked about the Zeus network being demonic. He talked about some symbolism with Greek mythology. He talked about the network trying to sacrifice him. And he talks about the name that they gave him, or they changed his name to, and what it actually meant in Greek mythology. Now, we're going to get into that a little bit more. As y'all know, we're going to go directly to the source of what that name actually means. But before I actually get into it, I'll let y'all hear the clip of how he explains all of the stuff that he's been going through recently, and he feels like his life is in danger because of being on the network. Now, another thing that really caught my mind was two other people that lost their lives who were also recently on the show. So I thought this would be a great time to bring light to the situation and expose what actually may be going on behind the scenes of this Zeus network. Now, real quick before we get into the clip, what we have here is, basically reality TV. A lot of them audition for the show Baddies or whatever. I've never seen an episode. I'm not sure if they have like another running show or some kind of game, but I know a lot of them can, or, a lot of the women or men or whatever, they can audition directly, or some of them are made to go on Pop the Balloon first. And, I assume to see how they do, what kind of antics goes on, whatever. I'm going to assume that's where Aaron the Plumber came from, right? So y'all already know Pop the Balloon is like, it's all over the place, all over YouTube, Instagram. You see the reels, you see some of the funny moments, people just attacking each other, pop the balloon when they don't like something about the guy or the woman. Y'all already know what this stuff is, right? So some of that is a part of like the auditioning to get on the network, right? Some of the women or people that are on the shows report making like $3,500 for one season at like the lowest level, I'm gonna assume. The more popular you are, maybe the more they can pay you. Now, if you are wondering who are some of these people on the screen, these are some of the co-founders and the CEOs. Y'all may notice the guy to the left, which is King Bach. These are like early investors into the Zeus network before it started to get really famous. So King Bach is one of the co-founders of Zeus Network. It is detailed as an American subscription video on-demand streaming service. The other guy is D-Storm Power. The lady is Amanda Cerny. And the guy with the glasses is Lemuel Plumber, if that is how you say his name. Also, there's stuff going on with Viacom trying to sue them and Nick Cannon for ripping off, portions of Nick Cannon's own show. But obviously he doesn't own that stuff. The people that are at Viacom were trying to sue Zeus Network, claiming that they are directly copying Wild 'N Out with some of the segments that they have on the network, right? What you basically have here is people, who are willing to basically sell their souls for some chump change. And that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. This is where Aaron the Plumber came from, started to get super popular with it. A lot of these women are willing to go on here, fight each other, beat each other for $3,500 a season, and a little bit of fame, a little bit of money. Y'all already know how this stuff is, man. People will embarrass themselves just to get on TV, to get in front of thousands of people watching it. And most people are entertained by this stuff. We already know a lot of women are entertained by this stuff. They want to watch it. It keeps their attention, the drama. A lot of them want to be a part of it. Why? I have no idea. People literally fly all around the country to go and audition and try to get on these shows and embarrass themselves. And now what we have here is someone who is exposing the darker side of it, because they are now realizing that these people who are founders of the show, they have oaths to, people who are above them. They're now a part of the industry. They've been a part of the industry. King Bach, the guy Plumber, who actually is the president of the network. These people have oaths. They took oaths to be where they are. They're part of the industry. So with those oaths, they have to fulfill blood sacrifices. They have to do things in order to keep that money, keep that network going. And that's just the way it is. We already know that it is a dirty, evil industry. And some of these low-level people who are just becoming internet famous are being exposed to it, and some even being sacrificed for the network's success or future success. So I know I've talked y'all head off in this intro. I'm sorry. We'll go ahead and get into the clip, and then we're going to come back and talk about a little bit of this Greek mythology stuff. And we'll go into two other people who have recently died from the show and is not being talked about as much as it should be, because it's very possible that they have been sacrificed for the show's success. So with that being said, y'all, check this out.
I don't want to step out on my woman. You feel me? I'm in my purest form. You feel me? I haven't been fornicating with nobody. I've been drinking water. I've been prayed up. I don't want to ruin that for my woman. You know what I'm saying? So I try to stay in my purest form so I could expose this woman to something that she hasn't been exposed to before as a wholesome man. That's what I tried to do, is provide her with that experience. But instant gratification is what she was seeking. So we were unable to align with one another. Why is it okay for this woman to put her hands on me? Because I'm a man? Because I'm a masculine man? I'm supposed to just sit there and take that and be degraded and humiliated in front of everybody? It don't matter if it's behind closed doors. I'm not finna put my hands on you. Had I put my hands on her, I'm going back to prison. Double digits with my track record. So why is it okay for this woman to put her hands on me with no repercussions?
Why did she do that? Like, what made it like, why?
Because the whole show on Zeus was a humiliation ritual. You know what I'm saying?
I like that terminology.
Yes. It was a humiliation ritual. Zeus is in love with Greek mythology. Ooh. Greek mythology is demonic in a real way. Brodesky, I done sat up, bruh. What piqued my interest, right? Zeus Network changed my name from Pied Piper to Pipe. No, from Pipe Piper, right? Yeah. They said Pipe.
Yeah, Pipe Piper.
Because I'm a licensed plumber. Yeah. They changed it to Pied Piper, right? So that sparked my interest. I said, what the is a Pied Piper?
Yeah.
Why the are they calling me that? Right, so I Googled Pied Piper. The Pied Piper is Greek mythology. A guy that led 130 children to their death. Yeah. And only 3 survived. One was dumb, one was deaf, one was blind. You feel me? And one survived because they went to go get their coat. You feel me? When the Pied Piper was leaving, and they came back and the Pied Piper was gone. So 4 children survived. Out of 130, so I'm thinking like, what the Why would these people, bro, I didn't really knocked out sex offenders. Nigga, on my mama, the nigga didn't really kick these teeth out their mouth in prison. You know what I'm saying? Why the would they my name with some sex offender pedophilia? You feel me? That's what I'm thinking. So that should consume my every thought. And after I started investigating the Greek mythology, I noticed that all the contestants on the Zeus Network show had Greek mythology names that trace back to Greek mythology. It's demonic. It was a satanic ritual. You know what I'm saying? When she slapped me, it's called the slap of admittment, right? In a real way. She slapped me. She was marking me for death, bruh. And I don't give a f. I'm finna say it on camera, bruh. They was finna sacrifice me on mamas. They was finna sacrifice me. But when Erica Mena slapped me, I got up out of there. I called the police on her. I filed a police report on her ass. And now up they satanic ritual. You know what I'm saying? Get on TikTokery and look at all the people that's exposing Zeus for the demonic entities that they worship, Brodusky. Lemuel Plumber, you're a weird, you know what I'm saying? Because who the f is into some, I don't know, I don't know one black man that's into some Greek mythology that want kids to get, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's weird. That's weird, bro. I wasn't programmed like that. On mama's, I was raised, we protect children. We don't let nothing happen to these kids. Nothing, bruh. How is you allowing demonic entities on your program, bruh? Nah, bruh, I ain't going for that. On mama's, nigga, Zeus.
Now, what has a lot of significance to what Aaron the Plumber was talking about with the whole Pied Piper thing, you won't believe what this actually connects to, even to someone in the music industry and the nastiness that these people are about. Now, he said they changed his name to Pied the Piper. So we're going to get into what that actually means. He was, pretty much right about what he said. We don't have to talk too much about Zeus and the Greek god Zeus. That's widely available information if you want to know more about Greek mythology. We know Zeus was the youngest of 6 children to Father Time Kronos and Rhea. We know Father Time swallowed most of his kids. If I'm not mistaken, the mom saved Zeus from being swallowed and moved him to another place where he was raised. Y'all should know the names. His most notable siblings, I would say, was Hades, god of the underworld, and Poseidon, god of the seas, horses, earthquakes, and so on and so on, right? So we don't have to get too much into that. We already know the Greek mythology stuff. Like I said, is widely available information, simple Google search, and you could learn more about that stuff, right? So it's the story of the Pied Piper, where the people of Hamlin refused to pay a rat catcher, a literal rat catcher, who uses his magic flute to lure the children away from town to never return. This guy was a mysterious legend. His name was Pied Piper. This is where the story first originated. And he actually was a rat catcher, supposedly. Now, this was back in Hamlin, Germany in the 13th century. Today, it's a short phrase meant to describe a charming leader who shepherds their trusting followers into danger. A Pied Piper is someone who enchants and bewitches. Then they betray. So if you think about them giving Aaron the Plumber that name and him actually researching it and being like, no, whoa, wait a minute. This is not who I am. They said it's a charming leader who shepherds their trusting followers into danger. Someone who enchants and bewitches, and then he betrays you. In a sense, you could almost say every celebrity is a Pied Piper. And guess what celebrity actually used that as an alias? Ding, ding, ding. R. Kelly. I'm sure a lot of y'all may remember that, but R. Kelly used that as an alias. So he was someone who enchanted, bewitched, and betrayed. And we already know the rumors of sex and, underage relations. We know the thing with Aaliyah and plenty other women who were involved with R. Kelly, and it was, never spoken of. The whole industry knew about R. Kelly. They never spoke about it. So we could call a lot of deceivers a Pied Piper according to what it actually means. They shepherd their trusting followers into danger, into, spiritual warfare. These celebrities who, have people who worship them, and they're just basically leading them to, demons. They're leading them to hell. That's a Pied Piper. Now it says for some people, that danger has an edge of adventure. The Pied Piper is mentioned by characters who long to be drawn out into the world. The people who want to be of the world. Now it says it's traced back hundreds of years to Hamelin, Germany. There, in the 13th century, a rat catcher known as the Pied Piper allegedly led all the town's children away in an act of revenge because they didn't want to pay him. The kids were never seen again. Basically, they disappeared forever. Now, I didn't find anything that 3 of the children actually survived. One dumb, one deaf, one blind, or however he said it. I couldn't actually find that part because it's so shrouded in mystery. So it literally says it's a local legend. The town was infested, basically. The powers that be hired the Pied Piper, an eccentric figure in multicolored clothing, to rid the town of rodents. Using his magic flute, the Pied Piper lured the rats out of Hamelin to their deaths. The job done, he asked the townspeople to pay him, but they refused. So the Pied Piper decided to use his magic flute again. This time, he targeted the town's children. Luring them with his music, he led them out of Hamelin, where the children were never seen again. It says there's a theory that Hamelin's children got caught up in the dancing plague that swept through Europe, most famously in the 16th century. A similar occurrence happened near Hamelin in the 13th century, during which local youths started dancing uncontrollably. Which makes me think about the Corybant spirits that possessed Michael Jackson that made him also dance uncontrollably. So there was something very spiritual going on here. But of course, this is just a theory of what happened to the children. But it seems like there was a real instance of this happening in the 13th century, where the children were dancing uncontrollably. So we know from my past videos that those are spirits, Corybant spirits that possess them, that cause them to dance uncontrollably that way. They just can't control it. So ultimately, we think about, pedophilia. We think about sacrifice, when it comes to 130 something or the entire town of children being, magically fluted away. I don't see it being of good reason. Back then they were doing exactly what they are doing now. And this has been happening for a very long time to the little ones. So I wouldn't doubt this to be something that was very sinister. And it's also why Zeus Network currently are using some of these names, basically because they know a lot of people, they're ignorant to the information or the knowledge, and they won't really ask any questions. But it seems like the guy, Aaron the Plumber, smartened up and decided to ask questions and do research on his own, which ultimately you can't blame him for, because that's exactly what you should do when you feel like something is off or you feel like your life might be in danger because of this network and this show and the people that you have now gotten involved with, because they're literally trying to, summon these entities, worshiping these Greek gods once again, bringing these demonic entities into the network because, like I said, they have an oath to fulfill. They're handlers, the symbolism, the knowledge, the rituals, the humiliation rituals. A lot of these people aren't the ones who are basically leading these people or being the Pied Piper. It's coming from people who are even above them. They're handlers in a sense. The people who gave the go for this network. For some of y'all that may be wondering a little bit more about R. Kelly, so it says, artists often give themselves nicknames to reflect their identity, revealing a part of their personality that they want to share with the fans. It's something R. Kelly himself does, but in this case, his nickname has a more sinister connotation. R. Kelly, whose real name is Robert Kelly, doesn't just use his shortened performant name. He also calls himself the Pied Piper of R&B. For over a decade, in songs like the remix of Step in the Name of Love, he proudly sings the moniker, "It's the Pied Piper of R&B, y'all." The Lifetime docuseries Surviving R. Kelly delves into the allegations of abuse and relationships with minors that have followed R. Kelly for decades. And the first episode is entitled The Pied Piper of R&B. And now this is where they tell you what we basically just read and the story of Pied Piper, of how he lured children away from their home. And obviously, R. Kelly knows what this is, because you don't just come up and call yourself the Pied Piper. It's not funny, but, this is a lot more sinister than what people thought. People, they may have just heard it and been like, oh, okay, cool, he's the Pied Piper. They're thinking of it, sexually, but not knowing that this actually involves the little ones. And it's pretty sick. So this is why this portion really captured my attention and drove me to immediately bring it to the channel, right? So we'll jump into another small clip from Aaron the Plumber where he talks about this stuff a little bit more. Then we'll end this video off with the two people who have died recently from the Zeus network. All right? Check this out.
Need your support. I feel like my life is in jeopardy. Two people that were on Zeus network are now deceased. Raina Dunlap was on her way to a Baddies audition and was found deceased inside of a abandoned building. Jay Hefner, 1 month after filming with Zeus Network, was mysteriously deceased as well. Why is Zeus Network not saying anything about Raina Dunlap or Jay Hefner? I'm not about to be the third person, so I'm going to speak out on this. Somebody's definitely been following me. Mysterious stuff has been happening. Somebody mysteriously drove their car through my living room. Okay? Y'all see, they created the distraction. They trying to have me, they try to start a beef between me and Kevin Gates. Now, I don't know if Kevin Gates was speaking subliminally, in regards to me after his initial video, but that's the impression that I got. And I thought that a female gave them, because Zeus has been very persistent trying to get my address. I don't know why, because they know I have no interest in dealing with them whatsoever. I had my friend reach out to a female to ask her if she gave Zeus Network my address. And my friend is in his own neighborhood, and 2 hours after asking her, 2 random men come and stab him in the back of his head, and he's now in the hospital. This isn't no coincidence, okay? Look into all the contestants' names on the show. They all have Greek mythology. All names refer to Greek mythology. Look into that, man. Zeus is demonic. I don't have enough money to go against these people. These people want to harm me. This is an attack on blue-collar workers. That's exactly why they're trying to emasculate me in the films that they're showing. Okay, it doesn't even matter. This is deeper than who won the fight between me and Jay Hefner. That doesn't even matter anymore. What matters is, I'm telling y'all, I feel like my life is in danger and I need your support. All of this is over. Erica Mena slapped me. I already uploaded the film. You already heard where Jay Hefner said that she tried to slap him as well. This is some, and if you look into the Greek mythology stuff, this is some creepy stuff.
I need y'all support. Ramadan is coming up. I just want to get back on my spirituality path. I don't want no parts of none of this anymore. I don't want no parts of it.
Now, when I heard him speak of the two people that have recently died, now I think the guy Jay Hefner may have been in one of the shows on Zeus Network. I'm not really sure. Some of this stuff is new to me. I don't keep up with anything on Zeus Network besides like the pop the balloon reels you'll see on Instagram and YouTube, and that's not directly under Zeus Network. But I found an article that was more detailed about the girl Raina Dunlap. I don't know if she got past auditioning. I'm assuming for the Baddie show. But it says she had over 100,000 followers across her social media platforms. And they are investigating the cause of her death, as she was 30 years old and found dead in an abandoned Cleveland home. She was found in a vacant house on January 21st, which was a Tuesday. Known online as the Nude Queen, Maryland native Dunlap boasted over 82,000 followers on X and 17,000 on Instagram. She was 30 years old at the time of her death. Now, the family says it's very, very important because something bad has happened to her, and we're trying to figure out what happened. If anybody knows anything, please message me and let me know. I'm really counting on you guys. And this is her here, Raina Dunlap. Says while a Cleveland police spokesperson told Cleve Scene they believe the incident to be an overdose, her mother Karen Jones refuted those claims during an interview with the news. The mom says her daughter has never used hard drugs. She will stake her life that the toxicology is going to come back, that she did not have any hard drugs in her system. In a post on TikTok, her mother explained that their family would be having a private autopsy performed as well if they are able to gather enough funds to do so. A lot of times families don't understand that if it does come back as she had drugs in her system, this sacrifice is a lot disguised as overdose, and they will inject you. She could have been kidnapped. She could have been preyed on, kidnapped her, sexually assaulted her, drugged her, and her heart stopped and she died, and it was a sacrifice for Zeus Network. That's often how a lot of these sacrifices go, and it's just, randoms that the network doesn't care about, but they use their blood for sacrifice. They harvest that energy to those demonic entities. And this stuff is real. Anytime I see overdose and it has anything to do with the industry or, as we're talking about here, this network, Zeus Network, you just never know what's going on. I know for a fact, the CEO has an oath that he is connected to. His parents owned television networks when he was a child. He also had what they call angel investors, who were the first people to invest in Zeus Network. So, like I said, it didn't just completely start with him. There's other people, money who is tied into this show, and who knows the connections that they have and the oaths that they have taken. So this could very well be a sacrifice for him being worth $50 million. You got to pay up. And they will sacrifice the people who want to be on these little shows and catch their little fame that bad. You want to put everything on the internet and expose yourself to this kind of stuff? You may come across evil people like this. Now, the other person, Jay Hefner, this article reads, senseless act of gun violence. Adult film star Jay Hefner, 24, shot dead while protecting his family. This was back in September of 2024. Says his real name was Savion Hopkins. Died on September 8th in what his family described as a senseless act of gun violence. He was in Lincoln, Nebraska. He was trying to protect his cousin. He was fatally shot on Sunday, y'all. September 8th. Things that make you go, Shot him on a Sunday. The incident occurred around 1:30 a.m. when officers responded to a fight in the downtown area in the 100 block of North 11th Street. Upon their arrival, officials found 2 men at the scene inflicted with gunshot wounds. They were eventually rushed to the hospital. Despite immediate life-saving measures by medical personnel, the 24-year-old Lincoln man passed away from his injuries around 5:37 a.m. Then they later confirmed it was in fact Jay Hefner. It almost seems like this is where he's from. And it says he flew down to Lincoln, Nebraska from his home in Ontario, Canada, to visit family for a birthday celebration. So, just by reading this article, it sounds like he's from Lincoln, Nebraska. If that's where his family is based, we're going to assume that. And he just so happened to be killed the weekend that he chooses to fly down to celebrate birthday in the family. And he dies on a Sunday. That raises a couple of red flags. Although me personally, I've never seen this guy in my life. But when we talk about, the possibilities, and Aaron the Plumber saying they were going to sacrifice him next, that would have been 3 people associated with the network that they would have sacrificed or been behind their deaths. Very interesting, y'all. Very interesting. I actually enjoyed doing this video. Once I started getting into it and going down the Pied Piper thing, back to R. Kelly, I was like, man, this stuff is deep. And this is on the lower level, the lower tier. I think the headquarters for Zeus is in Northern Hollywood. So this is like, these aren't A-list actors and rappers and stuff like that. But this gives you a glimpse into, even just the reality side of thing, or people who are wanting fame, wanting internet success, want to be in front of the camera. Like I said earlier, willing to embarrass themselves, in a sense, sell their souls just to be a little bit of famous, instant gratification, a little bit of money. People are willing to do anything in this time for a bunch of likes and views and attention from people who don't mean anything, and they damn sure don't mean you any good. So with that being said, y'all, hope y'all like this video, man. Share it to everybody, because this is one of those ones that people need to see, because it directly affects normal people at the end of the day. These are normal people, risking their lives in a sense, getting mixed up with these people. So with that being said, man, it's Black Balloon, and I'm going to see y'all soon. I'm out.